You will not find any official records of Jeffrey Epstein's work in any recognized archive. What remains only exists in fragments, financial irregularities, sealed testimonies, and documents that were never meant to be read together. What I am presenting is not speculative, but a reconstruction based on recurring patterns. Survivors and witnesses have come forward and told me their side. They are still fearful of retaliation because the network still exists. Epstein's public identity was that of a businessman, successful, discreet, well-connected, but wealth, in his case, was not the objective. It was infrastructure. It allowed access to people, to systems, to information that would otherwise remain closed. His private focus was lineage, not in the traditional sense of inheritance, but in controlled development. He became convinced that certain rare biological traits, difficult to track, inconsistently studied, were indicators of heightened perception, decision-making abilities, and influence potential. The science was inconclusive. That did not concern him. Ambiguity, in many ways, gave him more freedom. He began by identifying individuals who carried these traits. This was done indirectly, through private clinics, research grants, and discreet screenings embedded within unrelated medical programs. The individuals themselves were not informed. They were catalogued. Nothing more. One former analyst, who worked briefly within one of these data systems, gave the following statement. "It didn't look unusual at first. Just another classification project. But the categories didn't match any recognized study. It wasn't illness. It wasn't risk assessment. It was selection. People were being filtered for something I couldn't define. When I asked, I was told it was above my clearance. I stopped asking after that. Once identified, individuals were approached, not directly by Epstein, but through intermediaries, recruiters, consultants, invitation networks. The approach was always the same: opportunity, exclusivity, advancement. They were invited to the island. The island itself existed outside standard jurisdiction. It was privately owned, heavily restricted, and maintained under the appearance of a luxury retreat. Those who visited often described it as controlled, but not overtly restrictive. A logistics coordinator, who later disappeared from official records, left behind a partial account. You didn't feel trapped. That was the point. Everything was provided: comfort, privacy, attention. But there was a structure underneath it. Schedules you didn't remember agreeing to. People you kept running into, as if by coincidence. It took a while to realize it wasn't random. This is where Epstein's methods become clear. He did not impose, he guided. Interactions were shaped through environment, timing, and suggestion. Individuals believed they were making their own choices, forming their own connections. In reality, those connections had been anticipated, sometimes engineered. Pairings occurred naturally, or so it appeared. Epstein understood that control is most effective when invisible. From these pairings, a second phase began. The individuals involved were not treated as subjects. They were treated as participants in something exclusive, something meaningful. They were told in vague terms that they had been chosen for their potential, that they were part of a rare alignment. Some believed it, some did not, but all remained within the system. A former attendee, interviewed years later under strict anonymity, described the atmosphere. There was always a sense that you were being evaluated, not judged, evaluated, like you were part of a process you couldn't fully see. No one explained it outright, but you could feel it in the way people spoke to you, like you were already decided. What followed was not centralized. That would have been too visible. Instead, Epstein shifted his operation outward. He had already cultivated relationships with individuals in positions of influence, figures within finance, governance, and legacy institutions. These connections were not built on shared ideology, but on mutual benefit, access, discretion, opportunity. Through these channels, placements were arranged, carefully, quietly, and without formal documentation. The network does not function as a single entity. That is a common misconception. It is distributed. There are no official members, no meetings that could be traced, no structure that could be dismantled in a conventional sense. It operates through alignment. Individuals positioned within systems who, knowingly or not, continue the pattern. Recognition within the network is subtle. A former administrative assistant who processed internal communications for one of Epstein's known associates recalled, "There were phrases that kept appearing, not in the same way, but similar enough. References to continuity, to refinement, to alignment. It didn't mean anything on its own, but when you saw it across different communications, it felt coordinated." These signals allowed individuals to identify one another without explicit acknowledgement. Beyond this, there were references, less consistent but persistent, to private gatherings. These were not social events in the usual sense. Attendance was limited. Invitations were indirect. Locations changed frequently. Their purpose appears to have been reinforcement. A witness account recovered from an unverified source states, "It wasn't about discussion, it was about presence, being in the same room, recognizing who else was there. You didn't speak openly, you didn't need to. The structure was already understood." By this stage, Epstein's original objective had evolved. He was no longer identifying potential. He believed he was refining it, directing it, ensuring its continuation through controlled placement and influence. There are also references to symbolic practices. These are difficult to verify. Some accounts describe them as psychological, structured exercises designed to reinforce identity and loyalty. Others suggest participants believed they held deeper meaning. What matters is not whether the symbols themselves had power. What matters is that those involved believed in the structure they represented. Belief, in this context, is a form of control. Epstein disappeared before any formal investigation could reach him. The island was found abandoned, systems dismantled, records removed. I say disappeared because I don't believe he is dead. Anyone who looked into it will know that the corpse photographed was not Epstein. It didn't even have the same nose. And the marks on the neck do not match those of someone who hung themselves. More like those created when someone is strangled. But the network did not collapse. It no longer depended on him. If anything, his absence ensured its survival. Without a central figure, there was no single point of failure, no origin to trace. What remains is a pattern of placement, influence, and quiet alignment across systems that shape decision-making at the highest levels. You will not uncover it by looking for secrecy. You will uncover it by recognizing repetition, consistent outcomes, consistent pathways, decisions that appear independent but lead in the same direction. That is where Epstein's work persists. Not as an organization, but as a structure that no longer needs to be named. I have one witness who cannot be named, who came forward and told me she has the traits Epstein was looking for. She has O-Rh negative blood and blue eyes. Her IQ had been tested and it was higher than average. Epstein had promised her an amazing career as a holistic healer and masseur on a luxury island retreat. She was only 18 when she was taken there. She never imagined that once she was there, it would be near impossible to leave. She found the fantastic career she was promised was nothing more than her being abused and raped by Epstein and various other wealthy businessmen. After a few years of this abuse, Epstein impregnated her. But she was not the only one. Several of the other girls were also impregnated. They were taken to a special part of the island, away from all the partying, hidden away as the babies grew inside them. But Epstein was not the only one impregnating the girls. Others were impregnated by specially chosen men. They were chosen according to genetics. Once the babies were born, the girls were allowed to nurse them for a month before they were taken away from them, and they never saw them again. But there is something else. Some girls were impregnated, and once the fetus had developed a heartbeat, it was aborted. The girls were never told why, but those who have watched my secret access video will have a very good idea what happened to them. The babies were being sold to wealthy families. Who knows what they could be used for? Some might be brought up as their own children, others as sex slaves, some abused and their minds split into several personalities that could be used to store information. Others were used in secret occult ceremonies. Epstein read my book many years ago. He knew about our bloodline. He knew we carry the ancient secrets and magic within us. This is why specific genetics were so important to him. I doubt much of this information will come as a surprise to some of you. The elite circles know about the Serpent bloodline. Epstein himself would have only become aware of this once he was introduced into those circles, and he then went on to build his career around it, being the man to go to for the purest of the bloodline. Yes, it is sick, and it's hard to talk about these subjects. As for the woman who I spoke with, who had his baby, she did eventually escape. She's very scared to talk about this, and I have assured her that I will never ever reveal her identity. I will keep my word. But if she ever does find the courage to come out and testify publicly, I will give her my full support, and I'll help her in any way I can. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, everyone. Bye for now.